Hey, this is Sarah. Look, I'm standing out front of AM/PM right now, and well, you're sweet and all, but I found something more fulfilling, even kind of cheesy, but I like it. Sure, you met some of my dietary needs, but they've just got it all. So farewell, oatmeal. So long, you strange, soggy...
Break up with bland breakfast and taste AM/PM's Bacon, Egg, and Cheese Biscuit, made with cage-free eggs, smoked bacon, and melty cheese on a buttery biscuit. AM/PM, too much good stuff.
95.3 WBCK now presents Coach's Corner, live from Lakeview Ford. For over 6 decades, this has been your number one source for all local sports information. Coach's Corner is proudly presented by Lakeview Ford, where community matters. Now, here's your host, Bill Broderick.
This is Bill Broderick, sports editor of the Battle Creek Enquirer, in the big chair once again on WBCK for another week of Coach's Corner, coming to you live from downtown Battle Creek at Lakeview Ford on the Motor Mile. For more than 6 decades, Coach's Corner has been talking to the city high school coaches about the week in sports. With the regular season coming to an end last week and only one city team in action in the playoffs, we will spend most of the show this morning wrapping up the season with our coaches. But first, here's the Lakeview Ford, Lincoln Ford Coach's Corner scoreboard. In the game of the week, number 9 ranked Harbor Creek lost in the first round in Division 4 action to Grand Rapids Christian, 21-13. Elsewhere in the area, number 10 Climax Scots beat Gobles in 8-player division action, 72-62. In Division 3, Coldwater was without its record-setting quarterback Drayson Foster and lost to Lowell, 49-14. In Division 6, undefeated Kent City was too much for number 7 ranked Olivet in a 28-22 win. There were 3 area teams competing in Division 7. Schoolcraft beat Galesburg Augusta 42-21. Union City lost to Hanover Horton 44-6. And Bronson earned its first playoff win since 2009 and beating Jonesville 52-12. We will be back with our first coach of the morning after this commercial. This is Coach's Corner on WBCK 95.3 FM.
Yes.com. Coach's Corner on WBCK, brought to you by Lakeview Ford, where community matters. Now back to the show.
This is Bill Broderick, sports editor of the Battle Creek Enquirer, back here on Coach's Corner. We're here with our first coach of the morning, Coach Robbie Hatton of the Penfield Panthers. Good morning, Coach.
Good morning, Bill. How's things going for you this morning?
Hey, we're going okay. Penfield ended this season last week with a win, 35-34 over Parma Western, and finished the year 3-6. Not quite the year that you wanted, but made some progress with the program, and you had a ton of seniors that had some big years trying to help that team along the way, and those seniors really made an impact for the Panthers this year.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, the big three, Calvin, Johnny, and Dre, Sean Bailey, and then Gavin Maystar, so our big four. They've been up since they were sophomores. They've gone through the program all 3 years, and, you know, they had outstanding senior years. They left their mark on the program, and, obviously our goal was to get into the playoffs, and, obviously we were close, but couldn't quite get in like we wanted to.
When you have that kind of a core group of seniors, what kind of impact can they have on the underclassmen in terms of strengthening the program going forward? Yeah,
absolutely. Our goal is, we want to be great members of society, Bill. We do our Culture Academy. We do that 3 days a week. We focus on study tables. We focus on being great men. The football side of it will take care of itself. But, our goal is to make sure these kids are productive members of society. And, our senior class really led by example in a lot of that. They really help those discussions, while we're talking about, important life things. A lot of the times those senior kids were really, helping lead the discussion in Culture Academy and, help make sure our kids were doing their homework and all of that.
When you look back on this season, what are the things you kind of liked about this season, some positives, and what do you think that maybe you guys had some work to do and what you kind of work for in the future there?
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is one of our statistically best offensive years we've had in the 3 years that I've been here. Calvin Payson's had an amazing year, threw for 1,400 yards, 12 touchdowns. Johnny Lake had a great year, had 480 yards receiving, 4 touchdowns. And Gavin May, once again had an outstanding senior year, or a year at linebacker, and he played offensive line for us. And then, Drayshawn Bailey at the end of the year moving to tailback after even playing receiver for the last 2 years due to injuries. And, I really like where we were at, offensively. We were very balanced this year. We ran for 1,400 yards, almost 1,500 yards, threw for 1,400 yards. And, we liked where we were at offensively. Defensively, we had a lot of good things. We got to clean up some things on both sides of the ball. Offensively, we got to get better at third down. Defensively, we got to get better at getting off the field on third and fourth down. So, some things to build on, but we like where we were at. We got to keep building on it, though. We just got to keep pushing ahead and, just really working with our kids to get the most out of them.
You had a young group from the start. You have a young program overall. Guys trying to build the lower levels throughout, and we've talked about that a little bit. But the young group that's played on the varsity this year, some of the guys that kind of stood up that you have some high hopes for going forward, and they're going to have to step into some big roles next year as their roles will expand when they become seniors. Who are some of those guys?
Yeah, absolutely. So we started the year with 18 kids, between junior and senior year. So we ended up having to pull up quite a few sophomores to help us fill out our roster, and then even more. And then by the end of the year, we had freshmen up playing big minutes for us, though. So, obviously Isaiah Eakins-Gray had a great season. He played 5 games this year. His season got cut short due to injury, but he had 712 yards in 5 games with 5 touchdowns, and he's a fantastic player for us. And then we had a couple freshmen who came up, played big. Evander McCarron and Corey McGee both came up and played some big minutes for us. And then, obviously, defensively, Alex Miller, he has a good shot at being our quarterback next year as well. But, he had a fantastic year defensively, moving into a safety position. It's just something he hasn't played since middle school. So, but then, probably one of our most improved, if not one of our best defensive players this year was Peyton Merlington for us, on the defensive side of the ball. And, for him next year, we're going to work on him, cleaning up his routes a little bit, getting more consistent, and, he'll be a big player for us on offense as well.
And what we're going to do throughout the morning with all our coaches, no football program gets figured out just by the head coach alone. There's a ton of people behind the scenes that help keep that running and make sure that everything's done and make sure everything's figured out for every game, and then helping the kids get to every practice and helping the kids do what they need to do to have a football program. And I know you want to thank a lot of people about what they've done for the football program at Penfield. Who are those some of the people?
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously all my assistant coaches and their wives and families for sacrificing what they need to sacrifice at home with their husbands, boyfriends, whatever, for them to be able to coach. That's a big part of what we do. We want our families to be involved as well. So, but then obviously, our school board, superintendent, Mrs. Lemmer, and then team dinners, Mrs. Jamie Merlington, she was big part of doing that. And then obviously all my parents that help cook their meals every day or every week, and then our athletic boosters, they're great. They do a great job in making sure we have what we need. Our community does a great job of coming out, and then obviously, my own wife and my own kids, they sacrifice a lot for me to be able to do what we do. So. And
we'll talk next week a little bit more about the sub-varsity at Penfield. We'll talk to one of your assistant coaches about how that's been going and where you're standing with that. But I want to thank you, Coach, for joining us all season during the football season. And I'm guessing we're going to be chatting with you a little bit about basketball season here coming up. So we'll look forward to that.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Bill.
Thanks, Coach. We'll be back with our next Coach for the Morning after this on WBCK 95.3 FM.
Coach's Corner on 95.3 WBCK. Proudly brought to you by Lakeview Ford, where community matters. Here's Coach's Corner.
This is Bill Broderick, sports editor of the Battle Creek Enquirer, back here on Coach's Corner. We're here with our next coach of the morning, Coach Brett Vernon of the Lakeview Spartans. Good morning, Coach.
Good morning.
Lakeview ended the season last week with a 62-46 win over Gull Lake as the Spartans finished 1-8 on the year. And it was a year that you struggled through some injuries and struggled through some situations where you came close with some wins and just couldn't get there, but you got that victory in that last week of the season, and the seniors got to walk off the field with a smile on their face that way. But let's talk about the whole season in general and what you wanted to get accomplished and what you guys did get accomplished and what you guys kind of came up short at.
Yeah, it was rough. It was a tough season. It wasn't the way that we thought it would go. And luckily, we had that last game of the season that we, came out on top. So it gives you a little bit better feeling, but we were kind of hoping for more throughout it. Unfortunately, it didn't go that way. So, those kids that are returning, those kids that are going to be coming back, hopefully we use it as a way to drive and to work hard in the off season to get us to where we want to be next year.
You had a core group of seniors that played well for you throughout the year, and a lot of guys that were coming back for second or third year of varsity experience, and those guys had their senior years and they were able to play for Lakeview Spartans and had strong seasons themselves individually. Let's talk about some of those seniors that stepped up for you and what you liked about what they played.
Sure. First off, talk about Austin Wildermuth. He had a career game that last game of the season, set the rushing record for a single game, and then set the single game scoring record, and so for him to finish off that way was pretty exciting. And, same thing for those offensive linemen up front, Jameer Boykins, Carlos Suarez, Frank Buffard, all seniors that are up front. That you could have gone into the end of the season in the record books as an 0-9 team, but now they're in the record book as having a great rushing day, setting the record for team rushing yards in a game. And kind of flips it around, and it's still hard not to remember the first 8 games, but that last game, the way they went out, there's hopefully put a smile on their face, but they finished that the right way, and so hopefully they can at least smile a little bit at the end of the season.
Let's talk about a little bit about what you liked about what you did get to do. I know you guys at times really did a really good job of running the ball, and throughout the year you did that behind Austin and that offensive line, which we talked about a couple of times, is that you didn't like how the defense kind of gave up too many points on a week-to-week basis, and some things that you saw there now that you kind of had a week to look back on and what you liked and what you want to work on going forward.
Yeah, so defense wins championships. You got to be a team that can stop other teams. We struggled in the red zone offensively, but like you said, we moved the ball pretty well throughout the year. We just didn't have that many possessions, and so when you're staying on the field on defense, and you're not getting the ball back in the offense's hands, it's tough to win games. So we have to get better defensively. Got to be better tacklers. Too many missed tackles out there. Our fits, our leverages, all those things that make a quality defense good, we have to do a better job at. And so, just as a coaching staff, we got to figure that out. And then, getting our kids to a position where we're able to perform, able to carry out the game plans, and just become better defensively. It's got to be huge. It's got to be our number one priority.
Trying to grow the program from the junior class down, and trying to get more kids in the program that way, it has to be a key for you going forward. And I think you did a better job with that in the last year. A lot of those juniors and some sophomores up on the varsity made an impact, and you got to look forward to what they might do for the team next year. Some of those guys that stood out for you that you're excited about?
Yeah, so we had a handful of guys that were juniors that have played a couple, that was their second year playing varsity. So Jackson Ward's kid played defensive end for us and moved to offensive guard for us. Did a great job for us. He's a kid that we hope to lean on next year offensively and defensively, kind of being that leader for us. Cam Dawson played linebacker for us, played last game of the season, played a little bit defensive end, an offensive line guy, a kid that works hard. He tore his ACL his sophomore year, so this was really his first year being a varsity player. He's going to be on varsity for us as a sophomore. So as he was recovering from that ACL, the first year back, I had some growing pains with him, but I think he's a kid that we can lean on again next year as well. Isaiah Jackson is a dynamic individual. Need a good off season from him. He's obviously big into other sports, big baseball player, but get him to want to take that quarterback position for us. And when the ball's in his hands, big plays can happen. And so you got that. We got Memphis Wirtz played tight end for us. A kid that the size is all there, and continue to get him bigger and stronger, faster. Good things can happen. So there's multiple kids, that hopefully we can take the step up next year and go. And then you get into what our JV team did. We were, for the most part, able to keep that whole squad intact, where we have not been able to do that in the past because we had to move some kids up because of some light numbers somewhere. But I think, like you said, we were at 94 in the program. This past year, the year before, we were same around those numbers. So we're getting some kids to come out to play. Still a lot of novices or first year kids that we're just kind of pulling off the streets. We got to get some of these kids that are in our lower programs to stick with it and go all the way through. And I think our program can grow.
That's exciting to hear. That's when we watch high school football around this area, the key has always been getting the numbers in the lower programs and creating that situation where there's growth there. And we've seen that at Lakeview the last couple of years, and since you've been on there, and that's been huge for Lakeview. And I think we'll see some fruits of that going forward. And what we're going to do with all the coaches this morning is all the things that help a varsity program run smoothly. And there's a lot of people to thank when you're doing that, people behind the scenes, and we'll give all our coaches a chance to do that this morning. So, Coach, who helps you there?
Yeah. So first off, just the coaching staff. Is I don't know, the listeners. They know the amount of time and effort that is put in, and even though it's a tough season, the amount of time that my coaches, come in for meetings and time after practice, before practice, just time in the summer, off season, the amount of time that those guys put in and time invested into those kids is great. And so you got to thank the whole coaching staff from freshmen to varsity there, and then our lower level stuff, and trying to get more involved and making sure that we're kind of one family all the way from our LYA to varsity. Ken Johnson took over our LYA, and he's doing a great job. Did LYA coaching, and he's in the middle school now, helping out in middle school there as well, coming to varsity meetings, just trying to figure out how can we make our program better. And so we're getting some of those younger coaches involved is great. And then you get into the parents that are helping you out, because team dinners and just all the organization for senior night stuff and all that. Angela Deal did a great job for us. Her son was a senior who did a great job for us, but she stepped up and did some of that team dinner stuff for us, so that was great. Ken Roach, that helps us out with video stuff, and that's getting all that stuff uploaded and so that we can watch it as soon as possible, and all that. That's great. And then everybody that's behind the scenes that's doing some of the paperwork, getting things set up, getting stuff set up for game days. So AD Sean Amesbury, the athletic secretary Laura Van Dis, they just they do a great job of taking some of the stuff off of our plate. To get that work done, so that's great. There's so many people that are involved that you don't see on the sideline day in and day out of a football program that are there to help, and there's always looking for more. So if you're a Lakeview community member that wants to help out with the program, we're always looking for more people, more coaches, more people to just be a part of what we have going on.
Well, it's exciting in terms of, like we said, the numbers and stuff for the direction of the program. So I know there'll be some brighter days going forward. And we'll talk a little bit about that next week with one of your assistant coaches. We talk about the sub-varsity programs at Lakeview and what's happening there. But I want to thank you, Coach, for coming in all season. And we'll catch up with you later. Thanks a lot, Coach. Well, we'll be back with our next Coach of the Morning on WBCK 95.3 FM after this.
Coach's Corner on WBCK, brought to you by Lakeview Ford, where community matters. Now back to the show.
This is Bill Broderick, sports editor of the Battle Creek Enquirer, back here on Coach's Corner with our next coach of the morning, Coach Kevin Bennett of the St. Phil Fighting Tigers. Good morning, Coach.
Good morning.
We have a young St. Phil and scrappy St. Phil Fighting Tigers team this year, and they had learned a lot of tough lessons this year. Not a lot of upperclassmen on the team, and you guys kind of struggled that way, but what we've talked about all year is that you had to maybe pay your dues this year, take some lumps for a brighter future. Is that still the idea?
Yeah, I mean, looking back at this year, it was a year of experience and learning and trying to build some football IQ. And, the hope is with having such a large freshman group, these guys just continue to play together and get better, year after year. But I think, these guys learned a whole lot. They learned what it takes to play at this varsity level. We have a whole lot in store for the offseason, just trying to build some football IQ, get these guys in the weight room. It's going to be exciting to see what these guys can do here in 2 and 3 years.
We spend this time this morning also talking about seniors on all the teams, but that's a short conversation with your team. We have one senior that you're saying goodbye to, and I know he gave a lot to this program and limped through this season, and I know you're kind of proud of what he did for you guys.
Yeah, Benny Nelson, towards ACL early in the season. He played as long as he could, ended up getting a surgery, but, I mean, this kid, even with having surgery and a torn ACL, was still at every practice. He was still at every game cheering us on, making a big vocal leadership from the sideline. He was invaluable, not just when he was playing on the field, but even in the midst of his injury. So really working with our younger guys, coaching them, pulling them aside, trying to lift their head and be an encourager. So we're so proud of Benny and what he was able to give to the team, and in spite of his ACL issue. So.
We have some standouts in the main playing group to talk about a little bit. Brogan Lightfoot had a huge season for you. You're a junior, and let's talk about what he contributed this year for you.
We're so excited to be able to have Brogan back again next year as a senior, but as a junior, I mean, he stepped up in his athleticism and playmaking ability on the offensive side of the ball as a running back. He just gave us some incredible yards this season, and then defensively, he was kind of split in more of a flex DB / outside linebacker for us in a lot of games, and was able to get out in coverage, but also still kind of play within the interior in the box, and stepped up huge. Special teams was our returner, so he was a huge all-around player for us and gave us some incredible minutes and hard physicality football. He's going to be great to be able to have back as our senior next year too.
Playing 8-player division football sometimes feels like there's not a ton of numbers that are around helping out, but you do have a lot of people that are helping St. Phil's program get off the ground week after week, and let's talk about those people who you want to thank.
Yeah, first year at St. Phil, one big thing is the parent support. They traveled really well. They came out and supported and cheered on our boys from the sideline, even in a little bit of a discouraging season. But they were faithful and strong and helped with team meals. And so our parent group was just fantastic. And Stacy Lightfoot did a great job with a lot of organization in that. Our coaching staff, just got to thank them. They put in so much work in the offseason and this summer. There was a lot of sacrifice this summer that they made. And, of course, the long weekend hours with films and coming in for meetings and early practice times just to gather. And so our coaching staff was great. Sideline help. We had several assistants that helped us, photography, Raina, Paul on the sideline. We had Landon who was doing our videography. Some of our managers on the sideline did great. And then all the behind-the-scenes people. We had a huge crew that helped CW Post Field set up every single week to shorten our field width-wise for 8-man football. And, faithful group of guys there that come out and do that, or ticket and concessions. And there's so many behind the scenes with our booth and announcers that we had an incredible support staff and huge group of volunteers, even for a small 8-man football program like this. So big shout out to those people.
All right. Well, that's looking forward to some brighter days for St. Phil going forward. And I want to thank you, Coach, for coming in all season long, and we appreciate that.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you.
We'll be back with our next Coach of the Morning after this on WBCK 95.3 FM.
Coach's Corner on 95.3 WBCK. Proudly brought to you by Lakeview Ford, where community matters. Here's Coach's Corner.
This is Bill Broderick, sports editor of the Battle Creek Enquirer. Back here on Coach's Corner, we're here with our next Coach of the Morning, Coach Lauren Granger of the Battle Creek Central Bearcats. Good morning, Coach.
Good morning.
We had Battle Creek Central finish up its regular season last week. The Bearcats started the season 4-2, and then they struggled a little bit down the stretch. But there's still a lot of positive things coming out of this season, and a lot of exciting things coming out of the season because you guys felt like you kind of took a step forward as a program.
Yeah, we did. And, one thing I wanted to talk about this morning was our senior group. In preseason, when we were at camp, I had all our kids kind of secretly write down on a piece of paper something that they thought kind of stood in their way of being successful. And then we did a activity where, we wadded up the paper and basically threw it into a fire. And we didn't have to talk about what we wrote and share it with anybody, but it was just like symbolism of take whatever you think standing in your way and throw it away, burn it up. Well, the fire got spoiled that night, and so we had to simulate a fire in our, classroom hall at camp. So we had a trash can in the middle of the room, and we just threw them all in the trash can, and then the kids all left. Well, late that night, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, I went back in the room and I opened up all the papers, and they don't know that, but I don't care if they know it now. But it was interesting to me that, the biggest answer that I saw in the biggest obstacle that I saw in those papers was their confidence. They felt like their confidence stood in the way of them being successful. Just, such a huge one-word answer. And I thought our senior group this year did a good job injecting confidence into the team. We didn't end the way we wanted to, but we sure gave ourselves a chance in a lot of those games that we lost. And I think that our team believes in themselves a little bit more than they did going in. And that's because of the leadership of our seniors. Those guys played their hearts out despite really never having a winning season in their whole career. And reflecting back on some of the relationships that we had with those guys, Kamari Williams, I don't know what it's going to be like not having Kamari around. It's weird to think about because he's been part of our varsity football team really for 4 years. And so to think about him not being there, and it's not just that he was on our team for 4 years, but I've known him almost his whole life. His older brother played for us. His dad's been a coach in the community for many years. I've known that kid since he was little. And then R.J. Gray, his dad also has been on our coaching staff all these years. He didn't know he was playing in our system because at one time he lived with his mom in another town, and in another state. But I feel like I've known him since he was 8. Mm-hmm. And so it's really, the end of the football season always sucks. But it's worse when you have such deep relationships with the kids that you coach and you feel like you underachieved, because we do. But I'm thankful for the efforts that we got from those guys, because I feel like the underclassmen now carry a little bit different swagger than they did coming into the season. You're just always uncertain of what you can really accomplish and what you can do. And despite all the efforts that you make to try to get kids to believe in themselves, they don't always. They need results. So we got some results, not all the results that we wanted.
Right.
But
well, you got a ton of help to put the football program on the field every Friday night, and people see the games under the Friday night lights, but there's a lot that work goes up to making that happen. And I know you have a big parent group and a lot of assistant coaches to thank in terms of how you got that accomplished.
Yeah, our parents really stepped up this year. They were doing things that haven't been done in a lot of years for our kids, decorating the locker room, making sure that there was food for them to eat, just a lot of little extra stuff that made the kids feel special. Social media posts. I'm not really much of a social media warrior anymore, but I have a couple parents that are really good at that stuff and highlighted the kids throughout the year. And they did a lot to try to make the kids feel special. And there's a lot of really special parents in that group whose hearts are really big for the kids, and I'm very thankful for them. The families of the coaches, I just can't say enough about how patient and kind they all are with the time that we spend as coaches. I mean, it's a 7-day-a-week commitment. There's work to do every day, and even on Sunday afternoon, my coaches are on Zoom meetings with their kids, showing film and breaking things down. And like, when do you have time for your family? And I didn't get anything thrown at me by anybody's wife or kids this year, so I got to thank them for their patience. And, probably just a personal one, I needed to thank our superintendent. A couple years ago when they asked me to come in and do the athletic director job, she said, I don't want you to do both. And I said, let me prove to you I can. And it's been a few years now. I think this is the 3rd season that I've coached and also been the athletic director. I don't know how long she's going to let me do that, but I'm thankful that she's continuing to, because I just get so much out of coaching, and I'm not sure what I would do if I was forced with the choice. So thanks to her for letting me continue. We have some dinner sponsors this year that our parents organized dinner sponsors on Wednesday nights that we haven't had in the past. A lot of businesses out in the community that sponsored dinners for our kids and fed every kid in our program. Just amazing, Midst to Pits right here on Calhoun Street, just for example, is owned by a former player, and it's a new business, but he just continues to donate, and it's just he and his wife. It's just wild to me how supportive people are in our community, so I'm really thankful for all those partners. And then I also want to give a special thanks to Todd Gooding. He's the assigner of the officials, and it's a thankless job most times, and he's had some health issues lately. But just reflecting on his absence and the importance of the work that he does, making the game of high school football better throughout Southwest Michigan, because he doesn't just assign officials, he trains officials, and he makes videos for them to be better at what they do. And it's been such an improvement, I think, on our field anyway. It's been an improvement in the officials that we have seen over the last couple of years. So I just want him to know that the work that he does doesn't go unnoticed, because it has made the game of football better in Southwest Michigan, I think. And then I know, there's probably people I'm forgetting, but I got to say something about our chain crew, because for 50 years or so, we had Ron Plymers was our chain guy, and he passed away from cancer a couple years ago, but his family members, his grandkids, have continued that tradition. And it's crazy, the things you have to think about logistically to put on a football game. Who's going to do this and who's going to do that? And there's 100 things. But that's one I never have to think about. His granddaughter organizes that, and I never have to worry about whether or not there's going to be enough people. I don't even have to check in with her. They just are there, and they love it. And so there's a lot of folks that are obviously involved in helping put on a football game, but the Plymers family is very special to our operation, so I just wanted to give them a shout out too.
Well, I want to thank you for coming in here every Saturday morning and sharing what's going on with the football program, and we'll do more about what's going on in your sub-varsity teams next week with either yourself or one of your assistant coaches when we speak next week. But thanks a lot, Coach, for coming in, and we'll catch up with you a little bit later.
Yep, thank you.
We'll be back with our next Coach of the Morning on WBCK 95.3 FM after this.
Coach's Corner on WBCK, brought to you by Lakeview Ford, where community matters. Now back to the show.
Bill Broderick, sports editor of the Battle Creek Enquirer, back here on Coach's Corner with our next coach of the morning, Coach Mason Converse of the Harbor Creek Beavers. Good morning, Coach.
Good morning, Bill.
Harbor Creek was a lone city team to play in postseason, and they played Grand Rapids Christian in a Division IV playoff game last night at Harbor Creek. They fell short 21-13, but it was a well-played football game all the way around. The Beavers got up early and then couldn't hold on, but I know that was you thought the effort was there, and it was a great football game, a great high school football game for all the fans.
It really was a terrific high school football game. We didn't come out on the winning end this time, but man, what a terrific football game it was overall. And it's always a sad day when football season ends. It never ends the way you want it to unless you win the state championship, which happens for very few teams. And so we'll look back on this and realize how fortunate we were at some point in time. We're not there yet, but to be, half the state last night was sitting home or watching a game somewhere else, and we were fortunate enough to be playing and had another week of practice with this outstanding team, and so it's sad when something that you care about ends. And this group of seniors and the culture they created, we don't go back-to-back 8-1 without them, and I just couldn't be more proud of them.
And we'll talk a lot about all those seniors and what they meant to the program, and they'll wrap up the whole season next week when we get back together again. But last night, you guys jumped out 13-0, and that was thanks to several turnovers in the first half that Harbor Creek forced. I mentioned in my story this morning that I watched on the sidelines in the pregame how you guys go through drills where you have the defenders and they hit a offensive player, then they rip the ball out. And then I saw that happen several times in the game, forcing those fumbles, and that doesn't happen by accident. And you guys gave yourself a chance to win that game because of those plays.
It doesn't. That's one of our pillars is create turnovers, and we focus on it constantly. Maybe not every day of practice, but multiple times a week. And we do work on ripping the ball out, stripping the ball, and to create 3 fumbles in the first half like we did. And we scored on 2 of them. Actually, the third one we were going in to score, and you talk about a game being a game of inches or a few plays here or there. We're up 13-0 and create another fumble, and we're rolling. We're going in to score, and we've got fourth, and it was fourth and less than 5 because I did think about kicking a field goal, but I really wanted to. At that point, it's playoff football. We're playing to bury them at that point and put them away before halftime, and so we haven't been stopped on fourth downs really very much all year. So we're going for it. And they stopped us short. Give them credit; it was about a foot short, and then they drove back. So we score there. We're up 20-0 going into halftime, and we get the ball coming out of half. It's a different ball game. Instead, they drove back down the field. Our defense played really well all night. They give Grand Rapids Christian credit; they made plays when they needed to, and they scored. We had fourth. I think it was 4th and 5 from about the 7. With about 15 seconds left. So we knew they had to put the ball in the air. They could get a first down, but they didn't have any timeouts left. And so we talked about how they were going to have to put the ball in the air. We had our defense called and brought a blitz off the edge, and the kid made a great blitz and just missed the sack. He tripped the quarterback up. It was Brock Torzinski tripped the quarterback up. Didn't quite get him down. Quarterback stumbled, continued to scramble, found a scramble drill, found a receiver just at the corner of the end zone. And again, those are the kinds of fluky things that happen in all of football, not just high school football, because now when the sack happens, the quarterback starts to scramble, somebody else is coming up to contain him, and our safety just took his eyes off the man he was guarding for a moment, and give their quarterback credit. He found that guy in the corner of the end zone for a touchdown. So now it's 13-7 going into half. We're still positive because we're ahead and we're getting the ball coming out of halftime, but that was a big swing right there.
That was huge, and the fact that you guys allowed the score with 10 seconds left and made it 13-7. But coming out in the second half, you had some opportunities to extend your lead, and you got stopped twice on 4th down in the second half. The crucial one was inside the 5-yard line on your first drive of the second half. That would have changed the game another time. So that had to be frustrating, and like you said, give Grand Rapids Christian some credit for that. But those 4th down stops in the second half were big for them.
Yeah, I'm going to give them credit. And if you look at the game and how evenly it was played throughout, it was extremely close and what you would want in playoff football. I mean, we had 14 first downs, they had 6. We were 5 of 10 on third downs, they were 5 of 8. The fourth downs really tell the story to me. We were 1 of 5 on fourth down, they were 3 of 3, so that was a big difference. We had 289 yards of total offense, they had 274, so we actually outgained them by a little bit, but it's those plays here and there on fourth downs where they stopped us, and we haven't been stopped like that this year. And give them credit, because we took the ball coming out of halftime, like you said, and had a long run to get us down there, and end up stalling on that drive. And then even though we stalled on the 5-yard line, our defense stepped up and stopped them and forced them to punt 3 and out from the back of their end zone. And we get the ball again with a short field. I think we had it on the plus 45 going in. So we had multiple opportunities and just couldn't quite get it done last night. And I love the effort out of our kids. They never quit. Grand Rapids Christian was just better last night. And it's hard to say that because we played so well all season and we didn't make mistakes last night. We didn't fumble the ball. We didn't get penalized a lot. They were big up front, and that wore on us as the game went on. We couldn't protect Maddox as well as we typically did throughout the year. And the running lanes that were there early in the first half, as they started to get momentum, they weren't there as well either. And so we struggled a little bit offensively after that. And Maddox was still 9 of 13 for 101 yards to finish out his career. He just had an outstanding senior year. And Cam Converse last night had 73 yards rushing to lead us. Cohen Sluchter was 51 yards rushing, and those two guys led us in rushing and blocking last night. And Dylan Eversall had a big 20-yard reception. Again, had just an outstanding senior season. And last night, Logan Converse led us in receiving. He was 4 for 4 for 35 yards receiving. And it was just one of those games where little things here and there.
Yeah, Cohen Sluchter scored both your touchdowns in the first half, and Grand Rapids Christian goes back and scores the go-ahead touchdown, makes it 14-13 there, end of the third quarter, and then go back and forth, and then they score the clincher, just about 2 minutes left, and go up. You still had a chance with your timeouts and try to go all the way back and didn't get it done. So unfortunately for that, and it didn't come up short. But we will talk more about the whole Harbor Creek season, what a great season it was, back-to-back conference champs, 8-1 in the regular season. Next week when we get together, and we'll talk a lot about those seniors and how it's hard to say goodbye to some of them and some of the kids coming up that you're excited about.
Sounds good. Thanks, Bill.
Thanks, Coach, for coming in. That'll be it for this week at Coach's Corner. We'll be back with our final week of the season, Coach's Corner, for the football season next week. Coach Converse will talk about that, and we'll have some of the sub-varsity coaches talk about all the sub-varsity programs for all the city teams next week on WBCK 95.3 FM.
With the state of today's economy, it is more important than ever to invest in products that last for years to come. As the seasons shift and get cooler, make sure your closet is stocked with durable layers that stand the test of time from American Giant. American Giant's clothes work harder and are wearable season after season. Their greatest hoodie ever made is made of the highest quality materials that are cut and sewn right here in the United States. So you're investing right back into your local community. Choosing American Giant means taking a stand for American manufacturing and hardworking Americans, something other mega corporations don't care about. From fleece to knit, all in a range of colors for versatile daily wear, American Giant delivers everyday pieces designed for everyday life. Feel the difference of quality made-to-last clothes from American Giant. Get 20% off your first order with code STAPLE20 at American-Giant.com. That's 20% off your first order at American-Giant.com with code STAPLE20.